United States Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas. Senator Cotton, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well, Hugh. How are you after the draft last week?
We are the greatest team in the NFL. We have our franchise quarterback. We are rising. Ohio State had 25,000 players drafted. Poor old Arkansas had none, and I'm sorry about that. But I got to get to business with you because my Detroit listener wants me to yell at you about Planned Parenthood, so I'm starting there. What do you think about this omnibus?
Hugh, I'm still reviewing it. It's 1,700 pages long. Obviously, there are some provisions in it that I like. The increased spending on defense is very important. It's a good start to what we'll have to accomplish next year in hopefully a bigger defense budget. The increased border security spending is good as well. I'm disappointed that we weren't able to include restrictions on funding of Planned Parenthood or sanctuary cities. I'm particularly mystified why we're once again using a spending bill to vastly expand the number of unskilled guest workers coming into this country that are taking jobs away from Americans. So I'll have to continue to review it, Hugh, but obviously like any big 1,700-page bill, it's a mixed bag. But at the same time, I think we should all keep perspective on it. It's a spending bill for 4 months and 3 weeks.
It is. It's got a 2.1% pay hike for military. I like that. It does not cut the troops. I like that. It buys a bunch of F-35s and a bunch of A-18EF Super Hornets. I like that. But tell me this. Some of the speaker's material says they broke the one-to-one deal. And if that is true, that's a big deal, that for every dollar of defense, you had to increase the dollar of domestic. Is that true?
From what I can tell, Hugh, it appears to be true. Again, making the math all add up and figuring out exactly where the dollars are is a little hard in a 1,700-page bill, but it does appear to be true. We just don't know the ratios yet. If it's a 1.1-to-1 ratio, that's obviously not quite as good as if it's 2-to-1, for instance. But it also involves going back, if you recall, to the final 2-year budget that John Boehner struck on his way out the door in October of 2015. So there's simply a lot of moving pieces here that require some careful deliberation, and my staff and I are kind of picking through the bill now to figure it out. But you're right that is an important principle that we need to stop following. It only goes back 6 years to the Budget Control Act and the Obama administration insistence that we increase a dollar of domestic spending on welfare or pork barrel projects or anything else along with defense spending. Now, look, we have a lot of important priorities in domestic spending, whether it's law enforcement or criminal justice or medical research, but national security must be our first priority in the federal government. It is one of the main reasons why states created a federal government to begin with under our Constitution. And I'm working with many Democrats who feel strongly as well that we need to break that one-to-one linkage, and hopefully in next year's full-year budget agreement we can do so.
Now, my two bigs for this administration are national security and judges, and of course, this is a home run. But we haven't got a single circuit judge other than Judge Thapar nominated, and I'm waiting on 19 more. Have you been in talks with the White House? Because they always consult with senators. I don't know if Arkansas's got a vacancy or not. If so, have you been in chat with them, and when do we see some nominees?
Hugh, we haven't had a vacancy in Arkansas, either on the district courts or the Eighth Circuit, until very recently. Our chief judge in eastern Arkansas just announced he'd be retiring next year, so we are only in preliminary discussions. I do know some of the potential nominees from around the country, and although it's not my state, I've been working with the Republican senators from those states to encourage them to take a look at some of my old friends or classmates, and I've been working with the White House as well. I know that the White House is very active in reviewing nominees for the circuit courts in particular. As you say, there's only a handful of them. Those are the most important courts below the Supreme Court, and I can tell you that I personally know that they've been having long and careful interviews with circuit court nominees, and I would expect some of those nominees to be forthcoming soon.
I hope you are urging them to appoint Justice Willett from Texas to the Fifth Circuit. We need a Twitter judge on the Fifth Circuit. Let me conclude by asking you about the Browns front office. Did you not play basketball with the president of the Browns?
Hugh, Sashi Brown played basketball with me, is the way I would characterize it. So, yeah.
So how can...
Sashi Brown is my old law school classmate. We met first day of law school. We were in first-year section together, and he was a member of the intramural champion Harvard Law Stars in our 1L year. Sashi was a great athlete, great point guard.
Now he's obviously a football genius. How come you didn't learn anything about football from him?
Hugh.
Now, I've been asking you to please intervene. His draft is done. He's done a great job. It is time for Senator Cotton's office to intervene with the vice president or the president of football affairs and get him onto the Hugh Hewitt show. This is the time to happen.
I've been telling Sashi for years that he needs to have an interview with you, and Sashi always says, "Why can't you ask me to do something easy like sacrifice my firstborn child to you?"
It's just because Browns fans are very happy right now. We have a quarterback. We're ecstatic about this. Last quick question, 30 seconds. 100 days, Tom Cotton. What did you make of them?
Well, 100 days is a silly marker, Hugh.
Yep.
I mean, we elect presidents for 4 years, not 100 days. So I don't think any president appreciates that tradition that goes back to FDR. However, on the things that last and things that matter most, like Neil Gorsuch, off to a pretty good start.
Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, always a pleasure. Stay tuned, America. Michael Shearer, The New York Times.